Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to go over what's happening with Vylana and Aubrey. So, as I can see, a lot of people are talking about the special podcast between Aubrey and Vylana and the third person. I forgot her name. I'm sorry. So here's the thing. It was very difficult for me to watch. First, I didn't even know that podcast existed until people started talking about it. So thank you to everyone that talked about it and brought it to my awareness. So I sat down and I watched it. And I have to admit, I couldn't sit through much of it. I tried, but it's like watching like pedophiles go at it. Like, I don't know, how much of that do you want to watch? So I tried to sit through it, but it's just too difficult. It's too difficult because of the fakeness. The fakeness and the bad acting and the crying, and while she's crying she's like, this is what I want. So, as you can see, the body language is not matching the words. So let's dissect and see exactly what's really going on deep down. Okay, so first and foremost, we have to knock a few things out of the way before we can even start this conversation, okay? We have to look at it as a high level, not just as what we're saying, because what we're saying is propaganda, all right? It's super obvious. But if you look at it from a higher level, you're going to realize exactly what's happening, okay? So I made a video a while back on Aubrey Marcus and how deep he is in the Illuminati. He did a ritual with the Logan family, the Jack Logan, I forget, Jake Paul, his name. And I remember I made a whole video about how the rituals and how, it's so obvious and how the whole thing was rigged. That boxing match was rigged. And they made a lot of money. They both said it. Jake Paul said, oh my God, I made so much money. Like everybody said, I made so much money. So this is what we call fuck you money, It's you make so much money, but you don't do anything. You're acting out a role, given by the Illuminatis, because they're all in it. They're all part of the club. And it's so obvious. So they're part of this Illuminati club that puts them in certain situations, ask them to act out certain things because of their influence. And then they do it. And then they receive a lot of money. And after receiving a lot of money, they go on television, on internet, and they're like, look, I made so much money. They go and they say these things to your face. So that was obvious back then. And that's where I pointed out, I'm like, these guys are Illuminatis. They're not new age spiritual gurus. They're actors with a script provided by the head of Illuminati. And this is why they have to do what they're told. So why are they doing this now? It's because after receiving all that money from that boxing match, the Illuminatis have to give them some time, because you have to spend that money, right? You have to spend that money, enjoy that lifestyle, have access to everything. It's like the P. Diddy situation. They give you a lot of money, and then for like a year or so, you're having a great time spending it. Okay? And while they were spending this money, Vylana came out and said, I'm excited to announce my pregnancy soon. Wink, wink, right? She was excited. You saw it. I saw it in the video. Everyone saw it. She was excited. That was going to be the next big thing, right? That was going to be her reward for sitting back and watching her man get corrupted. Because she was going to get something out of it too. Trust me, this is all for money, fame, influence, to be important in society, because these people are not important. So you need a organization to make them important. So now they're important. So Aubrey gets his match, right? He gets a lot of money through that boxing match, and Vylana gets pregnant. This is the deal, right? So everyone wins. The Illuminati wins, Vylana wins, and Aubrey wins. So then a year later, after spending all that money, the Illuminatis are like, oh, script has changed, because they're looking at the trend. They're looking at the trend on Instagram, on internet, on society, and they're adjusting accordingly. So now that they're seeing, no, people are fighting for, monogamous couples, when they're saying couple, it's because the word says it. It's couple. It's not saying threesome. It's not saying third party. It's not saying triangle. It's not saying three of swords, right? That's not what it's saying. It's saying couple. And no, I'm not saying two girls, two guys. I don't care what you guys do, but couple is two. So I don't think it should be more than two. But then again, that's my personal opinion, which we're not going to talk about because we're not here for my personal opinion. We're here for facts. So now the script has changed. And this is why it's suddenly out of the blue. It's like, yeah, we've been doing this for a long time, but now we're just going to talk about it. So now they come and they talk about it because that's what the script says. And don't forget, they're going to be even more rich after this, okay? Because it's the condition. This is why they started the podcast with, we can't go back, okay? We can't go back. So now we're going to learn how to go forward and doing this in public so that we learn as the public learns. It's so obvious. This is super, super last minute planned. And this is why when they go in their history, it's only just pictures of those three. It's not like those three at an event where someone else took the shot, where they just happened to be all three of them at an event and then like a guest or someone. No, these are not candid pictures. These are all specifically placed there for this purpose. And this is why they look so dry. They look so dry. Those three together do not look like a couple. It looks forced. And in my opinion, this is why when Vylana is looking at Aubrey, she's crying, right? Because body language doesn't lie. Hey, listen, when she was announcing her pregnancy or she was about to announce her pregnancy, she was jumping for joy. You saw the light. But this time it wasn't that. So she's looking at Aubrey and she's crying, right? And as she's looking at the other girl, and I'm sorry, it's not that the other girl's not important. I forgot her name. And listen, she is the third party. It's so obvious. I'm not gonna insult her, but she's obviously, she doesn't belong there. She's a non-player character. I don't know. To me, it's so obvious that they paid her a lot of money to do this. And this is why out of nowhere, she now suddenly appears and she's happy because now she got famous. She went from being a nobody to now a somebody. So trust me when I tell you, that girl's not going anywhere. Because when she tastes the fame and this and that, oh, she's going to want to be number one. But that's not yet to come. That's going to be for future drama. Because I'm telling you this, and none of this is normal. And again, no woman with self-respect would ever accept this. But this is, again, not about my opinion. This is about facts and what's actually happening. So if we read the body languages, she's looking at Aubrey crying, right? Can't believe she has to do this. And then she's looking at the other girl like, you better not cross the line. And you see it. She's smiling, but it's a smile like, if you cross the line, I'll kill you. It's so obvious. Look at the body language, okay? So she has no choice but to go with it. Because they're in too deep, and if she doesn't go with it, she's going to get canceled. Yes, Vylana will get immediately canceled, and this is why she also came out at some point saying, oh, I almost lost it all. Because if she wasn't with the program, she was going to get canceled. And not only canceled because she accepted the money and this and that, and now she's famous, she would have had to sacrifice somebody. And the only person I can think is her sister and her sister's baby. That's what they're probably holding hostage, okay? They're probably saying, if you're not doing this, we're going to go after your family because you've accepted the money. You've accepted the fame. You're in a position where you can influence a lot of people. And if you don't stick to the script, we will get rid of you and your family. And trust me, these people are begging to find sacrifices, It's what they're looking for. They're looking for, putting you in compromising positions. And if you don't agree, yay, they just won a baby. They just won more body parts, So it's a win-win for everybody, unfortunately, when it comes to these kind of things. And that's why I tell people, don't get involved. Do not get involved with the Illuminatis. Once you do, it's over. And why am I saying this? Okay, so in economy, we have a thing called the invisible hand. Okay, this is a theory. The theory of the invisible hand means that when you have a market, demand, and supply hits a equilibrium, which basically means if there's demand, you will have supply. So if I need potatoes, someone is going to supply potatoes. And then I'm going to find that person and we're going to match. They're going to match my need and I'm going to be able to pay them or exchange in energy. This is the whole point of the invisible hand. Now they're saying basically economy will work at its best if the invisible hand does its job. If you let the invisible hand do its job. And this is why it's called the invisible hand, because everything works. If you let a society based on exchange and skills work on its own without interfering, without government interfering, without organizations interfering, without the man interfering, everything will work perfectly and the society will thrive. This is a fact, and this has been proven. So, I saw it myself at Burning Man. I went to Burning Man, but I went to Burning Man before it was owned by Google. Now it's owned by Google. They got infiltrated. Okay, so Burning Man is not what it used to be. And thank God I was able to experience it while it was still under the, hippie control. So the whole point of Burning Man was to burn the man, like have fun for 10, 12 days, And then at the end, we burn everything as symbolic because we don't want the man controlling us, right? It was a brilliant idea in the beginning. And I remember when I arrived there, it's incredible. It becomes like the biggest city in Nevada for like temporary time, It's so big. It's incredible. 70,000 people. Now, imagine you walk into a camp with 70,000 people there, and all of them are in exchange of skills and talent. There's no money. The only money at Burning Man is like a central place, I think, to get coffee, something like that. It's the only place, or water. Or there was like a bike shop, but I remember the bike shop would fix your bikes for free. There was no like money per se, but I remember there was one spot. I think it was to get water, something like that. I don't remember. It was the only place that had money. But other than that, there was absolutely no money there. And the whole point was you have 70,000 people with 70,000 different skills. So they give you a map when you walk in. And let's say one person does fortune teller, between these hours and that hour, between, in this camp. Then you would look at another camp. They supply, let's say, grilled cheese between this hour and this hour on these days. Then you have a camp. I remember there was like a camp that made mojitos. I was there. So, they provide mojitos between this, so it's incredible. Every camp is providing something. And this is, some people would go and kind of freeload, but whoever that did that, people would look at them like, oh, it's obvious that you're freeloading. So it wouldn't be a good thing to go to Burning Man and freeload. I personally saw just one person out of 70,000 people do that. And it was me. I went with the group and I was my first experience. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't an artist back then. So I didn't know what, I'm not going to make business meetings. Nobody cared about that. So I didn't know what to give. So I went with a group called the Psytrance Community, and they were DJing 24 hours and I was with them having a great time. And I was part of the group. So I was like, oh, you can come to our camp and dance. We had a huge camp. We had like a living room, a kitchen, a shower section. These people are professional partiers, like I said. Incredible experience. And honestly, it was one of the best times of my life. Now, I noticed over there was no fights. Everyone got along very well. Everyone was artistic. And at the end, we burned the man as a symbolic thing, saying we don't want the man, interfering into our lifestyle. So I didn't see anyone doing drugs there. Okay. I'm sure they did. I'm sure, but it's all inside the tents. This is not stuff you see outside. There's also a lot of orgies there. And I didn't see with my own eyes. I just saw the tents from far because we had this one friend, and God bless his soul. He's married with children now and he's doing great. So this is not to judge. But he used to go to, like, every day he would go to these orgies and come and talk to us about it and then bring these girls to our camp, And I remember I would talk to their girls, and super nice people. So, if you want to go to a Burning Man and do orgies, I have nothing wrong with that. Go and do orgies at Burning Man. If you want to go to Las Vegas and do drugs and prostitution and gambling, it's called Sin City for a reason. No problem. Go to Vegas and go do these things. But you have to understand that there's a reason why they say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? So for the younger generation, and this is why you need older generation to step in with experience. So with the younger generation that says, don't interfere in people's lives and let them do whatever they want. Okay, I understand that. It's super liberal, and listen, for somebody that's really liberal and does so much, I completely understand. Yeah, go do whatever you want. But you have a certain type of responsibility, right? So Burning Man is great, but why is it great? Because it only works for 10 days. Why is Las Vegas great? Because you go there for the weekend, you do whatever you do, and then you come back, right? That's why it's great. But imagine promoting that 24/7. Like, do you really want like the whole, state of California doing orgies? Because trust me, if we're already at 50% STDs here. And like I said, I'm going to talk about it because we honestly have 50% of people having STDs in, California and Los Angeles. My doctor told me, and it's a fact. Go check it out. So now with this problem, we're going to add orgies and, all these kind of things into the city. You understand what that would cause as a chaotic thing, right? That would be so chaotic. It would be so hard to control. You can't tame that. That's like saying, well, if people want to go do heroin, let them. Yeah, absolutely, let them. Absolutely. But that's why you have Skid Row. You go to Skid Row, you find heroin, you do heroin in Skid Row, right? You don't go on television and be like, hey, if people want to do heroin, let them do heroin, right? They're impossible. Whoever that does that, trust me, I'm going to be the first one knocking them down. It's just, so this is something that the younger generation has to understand. We have to put limits. It's like when you're raising a child, you can't be like, do whatever you want. Here's a knife, go at it, No way. This is why the people with experience and the people that have experienced certain things have to speak up. Okay? This is really important because I'm not judging. Listen, if the best you can do is Las Vegas prostitutes, then that's the best you can do. I'm not going to ask that person to be like, hey, you should wait for your soulmate. You should wait for your Romeo and Juliet. I'm not going to say that to a person that their standard is a, prostitution. You understand the reality is different. So not everyone deserves that type of love, but everyone should reach that type of love. You're trying to reach the ideal love, and if you can't, then you settle. But you don't make prostitution the example. You don't make polyamory the example, right? Especially when your woman's crying on your podcast, trying to hold back her tears, right? That's a two things. That's a spiritual sacrifice that influencer was correct. Correct. Spiritual sacrifice and humiliation. 2 in 1. This is Vylana destroying herself. But again, don't forget, they're going to be filthy rich once this is over. Once they influence society to go towards like the Burning Man orgy type, they're going to be filthy rich. This is why it's our job to speak up and correct them because they're minority. This is just two, no offense, monkeys having a podcast and thought, two monkeys and their handler, obviously, right? It's so obvious. He's there to control the conversation in case she goes south or he goes south. So it makes no sense, right? Let them talk, but the rest of us have to speak up and be like, that doesn't make sense. Okay, so that's why the rest of us, we must talk. We must be vocal so that we can correct them. The people that are in healthy relationships, the people that understand that these types of influence, if they come out in society, it's going to cause a lot of damage. So instead of doing damage control, we got to prevent it, right? So let's just do what we're good at. And this is what we're good at. They're in too deep. And don't forget, they met at Burning Man, right? So I'm not saying it's a red flag, but when you meet a person that's in a, multiple person relationship, it's normal that they're not going to want to just reduce themselves to one. You don't change people. This is why you can't change people. If you meet somebody that likes these types of things, it's not up to you to change them. It's up to you to go find somebody that doesn't like these things just like you. So again, it's not about judging. Go do whatever you want. But to go and advertise it on your podcast and having your girl cry about it, listen, 100% propaganda and so obvious. So obvious. Okay? So that's Burning Man for you. And like I said, I've been to Burning Man during their heydays and they got infiltrated. Just like how the Illuminati's got infiltrated. Just like how Hollywood is infiltrated. Just like the government is infiltrated, right? So when you're infiltrated, we can't let these people steal the spotlight. Okay, especially when they have no idea what they're doing. And look at it this way. If you have a handler, it's because the invisible hand is no longer working. So the invisible hand works for economy without interfering, right? So the same thing happens for human beings. You have an invisible hand. And the invisible hand is the energies of God, right? So pretty much means, well, I'm doing my best and the law of attraction will do the rest. However, if you're part of the Illuminatis or a organization, the law of attraction cannot work anymore because the invisible hand now is affected. You have control over the invisible hand. So now the law of attraction cannot do its thing, right? You can't have the one that's supposed to come to you because now they're going to block it. You can't have opportunities coming to you because now the Illuminatis are going to block it. That's what they do, right? They block all your opportunities so the invisible hand can no longer work. That's just like, having a market and then the government saying, hey, you got to give 50% tax on that, which is pretty much how Canada works. And it's horrible. That's why it's so corrupted. 50% tax. You crazy? 50% income tax? Yeah, that's what the government does. 50% tax. So this is why the invisible hand doesn't work when the government does that. So you have to let the energies work on its own, right? And do its job. But if you interfere, it cannot do its job, unfortunately. And this is why the universe cannot help them. The universe is in no position to help them because they're going to only dig their grave further and further until they become the next Kardashian family. That's what they're doing. The Kardashian went down, so these people are going to be the next Kardashian because we're good. We always need a role model that's going to ruin everything for everybody. This is the reptilian agenda. This is the Illuminati agenda. Let me be the one saying it because I can. I'm not part of them. They can't shut me up. They've tried. And let me tell you, it's never going to work because I don't have somebody controlling my energy. I have God controlling my energy. And yes, the Illuminati should be very, very scared. I would be if I was them. So, as a woman, when you have God by your side, you're untouchable. Let me be the proof of that. Right? When you have God on your side, you don't want to date a monkey. Sorry. When you have God on your side, you don't want to date a monkey that calls himself a king. It's so ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Whoever looks at that and says that's a king. That's why he has to call himself a king because no one will call him a king. That's why they have to call themselves Buddha because nobody else will call them Buddha. And this is why they have to go around calling themselves such names to feel worthy because they don't feel worthy from the inside because they haven't earned it. And this is why they don't feel worthy. And this is why they're on a podcast crying, saying, well, this is what I want. No, sweetie. Last video stated that what you wanted was a baby. But he's not going to give you the baby, right? Because you first have to give him what he wants before he gives you what you want. Don't forget, it's transactional. You do what I want, I make you famous. You don't do what I want, I cancel you. And these people will never want to be a nobody. Come on. Going from the limelight to a nobody? Nah. So don't worry, this is going to be so exciting to see. Oh, wait till we see the cat fights and the drama that's going to come out of this. It's going to be a shit show. And I'm going to be there for every video, analyzing everything about it and giving you my 2 cents for free. For free. And it'll be my pleasure because I'm really, really good at this, as you can see. It comes naturally. Look, I don't even need a script. I don't even need a third party or a handler to tell me what to say. Automatic download straight from God Himself. So, conclusion. Don't believe everything you see on TV. They're acting. Trust me, Vylana's not sleeping with 10 men in the back. Aubrey would lose his shit. Trust me on that one. Aubrey might be sleeping around because, Vylana can't do shit about it if she doesn't have a backbone. Yeah, I said it. You don't have a backbone. So, they're all stuck. They're all screwed. And we're about to watch the shit show go down. And this is the whole point. Let's have fun with this. It's all a game. They're creating propaganda and we're calling it out. And we're going to have this dance forever until they disappear. Because trust me, we're going to outweigh them. We outnumber them already. They stand no chance. So I'm telling you, the Illuminatis are going down and we're going to watch them with pleasure go down and have fun with it. So we've learned, don't sign with the Illuminatis. Whatever you do in Vegas stays in Vegas. Please don't bring that shit home. I have no problem. Go do it in Vegas. Please don't bring that stuff home. There's a reason why it's called Sin City. There's a reason why it's called whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It is what it is. So, the best thing is to learn what a couple is and to work on that instead of, expanding it and bringing more problems and more issues. If we have issues between men and women or two men, two women, or, it doesn't matter, between couple, which is two, the word says it's two, because it's like a battery, right? You don't have a battery with 3 heads. It wouldn't work, right? Energy is 2 poles on a battery, negative and positive, right? So I don't care what the negative and positive is, girls, guys, whatever. But you need a negative and a positive on a battery for the battery to function, for the energy to flow. If you have a third, that creates destruction. So in other words, I'm going to keep this video short. The lesson here is don't believe everything you see on TV. Don't believe propaganda, okay? And don't believe anything that hasn't been proven to work, okay? If you have a method or a theory that has not been proven to work, please do not go advertise it. You have no idea the consequences of your action. You have no idea the consequences of your influence. Why? Because it hasn't been proven. So please only go and talk about what's been proven as an expert. If you've lived it, go talk about it because that's your experience. If you've seen it and you've witnessed it working, go talk about it because that's your experience. But if you're dabbling in something and you need help, you need a third person there to constantly tell you what to do and how to feel, again, it's not the invisible hand, it's the handler, right? That's not been proven. If your wife is crying on national television, that hasn't been proven. So when you're experimenting like that on TV, you're doing more damage than anything else. Why? Because it hasn't been proven. I have not seen a couple that are in an open relationship being successful. Will Smith and Jada Smith, right? They were in an open relationship. That wasn't good. I don't know anybody that's in an open relationship and that's happy. They're all miserable because they don't understand energy. And it's crazy how all these people are like, I understand energy, and yet none of them can handle it. None of them. And they're all in very important positions talking about energy when they have no idea how energy works. And not only that, they have no idea how energy works, they're about to lose control on their energy right on national television. I'm going to enjoy watching this. I'm going to enjoy every single one of them. So please, I look forward to the next show. I look forward to seeing Vylana cry some more. She's gonna cry way more than what we're saying, trust me. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So, let's watch this shit show, all of us, go down. Can't wait. Can't wait. So, thank you very much, and on to the next one. Ciao.